less physical time is about 5 to 10%. So what are we doing? What are we doing that's, we're not asking. That's what we're doing. We are just not asking. We're not setting things up to where we can ask. I have this sheet here. I think I have it. I don't know if I do or not. I pass it out. We need to, at the very beginning of club, to pass out different Awana volunteer sheets and ask people, how can you help out in club? Even if they're not interested, if they're filling out the paperwork for their kids, I think I don't know.
You know what? I'll take a picture
Oh,
of it.
even better. And that's online at the resource thing as well. So hopefully if we have time at the end, you guys can we can all look that up. You guys can fill this out. Have the parents fill this out when they're registering their kid. Find out what they like to do. I love to doodle and draw. And so the lady didn't know it at the time, but she could have pulled me in. I found out there was a father who liked to play the guitar, and his favorite thing was playing the Beatles. Oh, you like to play the Beatles? Well, then you can play the Spark song. So we've got to get him in here. Somehow, he could take a Beatles song and turn it into scripture memory. I don't care. He's got a talent, and I need him in here, huh?
Lightning bug is a type of beetle, isn't it?
Well, hey, there you go. Thank you. I could use that hook. So just, we really need to be tapping into our parents. Now, culturally, sometimes it's easier to do that than others. I'll be honest with you. In today's culture, kids that have parents that are older, they're going to be more interested in volunteering. That's just the reality of it. Parents that have kids that are younger, they are exhausted, so they can't always volunteer every single week. We have to be prepared for that and maybe have a rotation. I know some churches have snack rotation for parents, and they also have listening, the listening table station. They'll have rotation for that, so in case they have an overage of kids, I don't even like to say that, but in case they have so many kids show up and they don't have enough actual table leaders, they will have 2 tables to the side where they have parents who have the only thing they're going to do that night is come and listen to verses. They know they don't have to even do too much filling out of paperwork. The director can possibly do that, but they know they have 2 tables off to the side in case people don't show up, that they can have kids go. So your ratio is still down. I don't know how many people are here. How many are commanders? Let's see how many commanders. Okay, so how many are directors like TNT or Sparks or Cubbies? Your ratio really needs to be lower. That's obviously when you have the better nights, and especially Sparks and Cubbies. If you have a ratio of 5 to 1, and it keeps changing in the book, so I'm just going to say 5 to 1 because that's what I prefer. Anything over that, then you just start to lose them, especially in Sparks. If you have 10 kids at a table, well, you've got the 2 little girls who always memorize their verses. They've been memorized. They're going to come and tell you anyway, because they're not going to let you get out of the room without telling you the verse. And then you have those 3 boys over there that are just waiting for you to turn around so they can put the screws to each other. And you're just, that's the thing volunteers think is going to happen, but that's not every night. That's the occasional night because you don't have enough volunteers. So it's always good to have like a little plan. And I usually like to put the parents that don't normally show up at that table. Can you come? And I tell them way in advance. Can you come October 1st, November 14th, December whatever, January, give them a timetable. Can you come these particular nights? All you're going to do is sit there at the table, and any kids that I might need to send over, can you just listen to the verse and check it off in their book. And normally they will always say, sure, just give me a reminder that particular night. And then the really good thing to do is, and I forgot to bring all mine, but I have such a crazy purse. I always have stuff inside of a pre-done bag. And this is not really as much for commanders, but commanders actually would not be a bad thing to have a bag that has Awana money, if you guys still have money. A pencil, a small Bible. I use this, sometimes I use verse phrase. That's a joke. That's a whole lot of thing. Water possibly, whatever you need to have for the volunteer so they will be ready to go. Because if they're coming in, we do have to equip them. We can't just say, here's Timmy, and by the way, Timmy needs to get through 5 sections tonight. you don't want to ever do that to a volunteer, because that might be the first and the last time that you have that volunteer. So we really need to mine, I feel like saying mining the resources of families that you already have. I know Dad doesn't want to come, but Dad can come once. Besides the Grand Prix, we could say, okay, it's Dad's night. I know we don't have that listed on the club, but I'm always a big fan of let's do it, let's not do it in October or, November might be big football time. But just think, when's sports time now? If you can say there's never a downtime in sports. But actually, you could kind of get them maybe September or towards the end of the year. Can you come in and help with club, or grandparents, or aunts and uncles? Just, anybody who can pass a background test, who can come in and help with club would be a really good idea. Because the more people you have coming in and seeing how great club is, they're more likely to stay. Because usually, most people will say no because they just don't know. They don't know, Awana's way over here on this side of the church. It happens on a different night than I'm here, so there's all these kids running around, all these shirts, but I think once you get them in and get them hooked in, then they'll be more likely to come back. And that's the other thing with families. A big thing is, don't let your kids get dropped off. Kind of force that family to physically bring them into the church. I know the culture of dropping kids off is really, but no, have them park, have signs up or whatever you have to do. Have them park and have them try to physically bring the kid into club. Because a lot of times if we have parents who don't even come to church, once you get them more comfortable with physically being in the building, they're more likely to stay. So that's just another tip too. Let's keep going. Focus your volunteers. How many of you guys actually have a good number of volunteers in all parts of your club, or there's just one part of the club that's it's always one part of the club that's kind of shaky? So which parts of your club need more volunteers? I'd like to hear from you guys.
Meaning which club?
Yeah, which clubs, yeah.
It just depends on what year.
That's true, okay, right now, that's true.
Right
That's
now.
true.
I would say we run 2 Sparks programs. We have an afternoon and an evening.
Yeah.
So it's our Sparks in the
Sparks.
evening right now.
Sparks,
Yeah.
okay. Anyone else?
I think hobbies, because it's very hard to find people who know how to deal with 3 and 4-year-olds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I've noticed. It's always usually the younger clubs, and the older clubs, a lot of times, you will get volunteers in there and they will stay. I've noticed, well, not TNT or Trek, but like Journey, and then some people cut up their Trek into different ages. They'll have one part of Trek be in with TNT and another part off to themselves. The older groups seem to retain volunteers more. It's the younger ones. The younger ones, it's a high turnover rate. I was in Sparks for, was it 8 years? 8 years. And it's like 2 of us, and the retention rate is really hard in those clubs. So that's when you really need to focus on your volunteers and say, what can I do to make them feel like this club is really their own club? So what can you, what can you do to say, how can I help them make them feel like it's their own club? I'm a big fan, and as you can tell, of chocolate. Anything you can do to make them feel that it's their own club. Putting notes into their folders. My workers had folders, and he didn't really like that. I always used to say workers, but I'm the main worker. They would have folders, and so they never knew what silly thing they would open up to have all their stuff, what I might put in there. One time I put in, I should have done this, I told them, I said, one time I put in Starbucks cards. They're like, yeah, we're getting Starbucks cards every week. I said, no. That's not going to happen every week. That was just, something like that. But this is straight off of the Awana site. This is a template for the chocolate bar thing. How easy is that? How much does it take to buy a chocolate bar at a store? Not that much. And now you can print it. You don't even have to, because back in the day we had to make these and we'd be like, we'll make the cutest ones. So now you can just print it off the site, cut it out, take a glue stick, stick it on, stick it in their folder or something, a note, anything. You need to just constantly focus and encourage your volunteers. It would be great if we could just not say anything, just let them go, but that's not the reality of the situation today. We really have to do things that where we can focus on our volunteers and then remind them of God's provision and why they're there to begin with. A lot of the older people in your congregation, give them a why. We're so glad that you're here to work with Timmy, and give them the verse why you're glad that they're working. You know, they want to see that too. And then like the pens, I'm always telling, I'm a pen, like a little rule girl. I like, give me what I'm supposed to do, then I follow the rule, and then I get the little reward. That's how, but my husband doesn't work that way, not at all, no. So he's more, what is it, global, I guess is that the thing? He's more of the ethereal, I don't know the word. But he give him the broad picture of something, and that's what he works towards. So you've got to find what makes the volunteers that you have in your club tick, and appeal to that. It's the same thing that God has done to all of us. He has found the things that help us along, and sometimes He gives us stuff that we don't really want, and that's a good thing. And so sometimes you will have a volunteer. You just need to push them a little bit more, because they might need to be ready. They're ready to be a director, but they're still saying they want to be a table leader. I don't want to be a table leader. Well, you know what? Give them the director book anyway, and tell them over the summer, just read it. Not saying you're going to do this. I was just telling a lady before, I said, I've got Sparks director for you, and she goes, no. And she goes, I just got here. I said, but I already can see you're going to be the director. And I was just kind of actually, I wasn't joking in my mind. I said, she's going to be director. So I just kept telling her that. Year 1. Year 2, you're going to be Sparks director. No, that's not going to happen. Year 3, I said, you're going to be Sparks director. In fact, I'm going to just put you on this table by yourself, because she had just becoming helping it. And you're going to be Sparks director. She goes, no, that's not going to happen. So after year 4, she finally became Sparks director. So I said, you've got it. So she will text me with stuff. Now, as opposed to answering her right away, I wait a day. It sounds bad, but now pulling back. So because I'm not even at her church anymore, so it's not like, and I told her, I said, you email me with anything, call me with anything, I will. So she texted me with something, and I said, I'm going to wait a day. I'm just going to see what God does for her to work it out. So this is another thing with volunteers. You need to focus with some, but at some point in time, you need to start pulling back so they can stand on their own. But at this stage, we're still just trying to get them. So I want to rush through this, because I actually going to have us. I told her that she already knows. You guys are going to be getting up and moving around. And I'm like, no, we're commanders. We don't move. Yeah, you guys are today. Right. I'll block the door. We're going to actually do some practicing to each other how to ask for volunteers. Okay, so let me just keep going. Personalizing the cause, remind them of the impact they're making. And I told her this too, because she texted me a while back and said, I'm exhausted. I have this director thing. How did you do this? And I said, you're not going to do it like me. You're going to do it like you. Don't worry about it. God has got it already handled. And so sometimes we just need to tell somebody a verse or just remind them of God's provision. And He will take care of the rest. And equipping your team, I think we've kind of already gone over that. Provide them the tools that they need. I am a big fan of, it's already on the Awana site, or commanderbuild.net. I know some of you probably know the renegade site. I love commanderbuild.net. I'm sorry, I love that site. I will just Google and stuff. How do you get, we've got the internet at our disposal. 10 years ago, we did not have that. 10 years ago, you came here and you were like, I'm going around to all the classes and taking all the stuff, even if I'm not going to be in the class, because I don't know if I'll have the resource. But now we have those resources. So if they can't get to the training, take the book. Can I take you out to coffee? And we can just go through the leader's handbook together. Or if they say, oh, I'm not good at memorizing scripture. That's the volunteers think that they have to be good at memorizing scripture. I'm not good at memorizing scripture either. But after, 13, 14 years, I've learned some verses I can learn very well. And if you give me my little pen, I could get all the way through maybe a chapter, as opposed to, my husband, who he says he's not, he actually is really good. But he just knows that's what God has said, so that's what He will do. And so just find the things, all the resources you can for your volunteers. You don't want them to feel like they are being left out. And that's really one of the main reasons why people will come and they'll volunteer for a while, and then they'll just pull back. It's either, one, send, could be send, remember, that's another